Hey, Caitlin, how's it going?
Hey, Rajiv. Great to see you. That's going well.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for making some time. Really appreciate you joining us for this recording session today. I'm really excited to hear more about DataKind. Feels like it's been a while since we had a chance to really sit down and talk. So pretty excited.
Yeah, looking forward to sharing a lot of our recent growth and exciting activities. So,
Yeah, that's great. And congratulations, by the way. When did you take over as president of ODEVs? Was it last month, 2 months ago?
yeah, just about 1 month. So we've had our first event. We've got a whole series planned, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to steward that community.
That's wonderful. Yeah, no, they couldn't have picked somebody better. This is absolutely the right person for the job with you. So congratulations again. And ODEVs is doing some fantastic work. They've been doing great work for decade plus, and they're one of the pillars of the community, as they say, especially in the tech and startup community here, especially in the tech community. So congratulations again. I'm sure you have exciting things planned there, but we'll get to ODEVs in a few minutes. So let's start with you and kind of the audience. Introduce yourself if you don't mind to the audience, your role at DataKind, and what you do there, what DataKind is about.
Sure. So again, I'm Caitlin Augustine. In my day job, I'm the Vice President of Product and Programs at DataKind. Now, DataKind is a global nonprofit organization focused on using machine learning, data science, and AI for positive social impact. And we do that through partnership with social impact organizations to understand their pain points and what is preventing them from making the maximum impact that they could have in a community, and building out those products and services that we can provide to make their work just a little bit easier. I've been with that organization for almost 9 years now. DataKind actually started nearly 15 years ago as a volunteer-driven organization, and so we've gone through a lot of evolution to now really being a product-first organization with a full in-house technology and engineering team, and really building tools that have an impact around the globe.
That is incredible. Yeah. For those people who don't know what DataKind is, I mean, if you told me that an organization like DataKind existed, I wouldn't, it would be hard for me to believe that something like this would continue for that period of time for 15 years and go from strength to strength. And it's really amazing to see the kind of people that work come together to make an organization like DataKind be successful. So I'm sure you work with fascinating people and really the the kind of people you want to be associated with. So I'm sure that gets you up in the morning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I feel like I have one of the luckiest jobs in the world to be both a technologist and in a mission-driven space. I am passionate about making solutions open and accessible to communities of all levels, and I get to work closely in partnership with communities to drive action. To build these tools that can unlock information and make it these valuable insights that can ultimately lead to outcomes that have positive benefits. DataKind, we've been doing work in the global health space for a number of years, and we have a tool that's something called a digital public good, which means it's a globally accessible product that is completely free of charge and is toward social impact. And it's a tool for quality assurance that is deployed on health systems around the globe. And we've heard really positive feedback that it's been able to do things like in a single time period identify over 6,000 mothers who were at risk of health complications post birth, and be able to direct them into hospitals, and to be able to build tools that have that type of potential impact on communities is just astonishing.
That is fascinating. Yeah, I'm sure there's a whole host of products that wouldn't exist without, the active support of an organization like DataKind. And if you think about technology moving the world forward, we always think about like the iPhone or, AI or, Facebook, just bringing the social networks together and all that stuff. But there's so many applications of technology that are vital to society that are not necessarily directly connected to a profit motive, right? And you would think that's part of government, but that's really the third leg of the stool, which is you got local government, state government, federal government. You've got the for-profit side, but you really need the social enterprise and the nonprofit side to be successful as well. And they need all the same tools that the other two parts have in order to execute on their mission the way they should. And not everybody has access, like you said, to those tools. And the concept of DataKind is just such a unique one to me. Like I've never heard of an organization like DataKind until you and I met a few years ago, and we started talking. I was like, wow, that's such a cool organization to be a part of, and you've been there for a long time. So it's really exciting, and I hope people go research and see what they can do to be a part of and contribute to you guys as much as they can. But yeah, it's really cool. But so given all of that stuff that you've done, being more product focused, kind of how do you see AI playing into all of this? Because obviously AI is a massive disruptor. It's affecting everything from government to social media to every organization out there. How is it rippling through in your world?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I'll say DataKind, we were founded back in 2012 when we got our nonprofit status. And at that time, data science, machine learning, AI, right? These were almost like magical phrases, right? They were you were sort of a unicorn if you could do them. Today, right? Data science, AI, it's not unfamiliar. In fact, leveraging these tools, leveraging being data driven is foundational in every sector, right? Including social impact. But we, I would say, are still seeing the same challenges now, just with an updated technology, right? So, nonprofits, social impact organizations, like many businesses out there, they struggle to fully still harness these AI tools. At this point, it's not because of a lack of awareness or even a lack of ambition, but those tools aren't actually built for their realities, right? It's still too complex or too expensive or not aligned to programmatic goals. And then, when you start to think of just these rapid explosions of things like generative AI, there's this kind of also corresponding set of questions of trust, equity, responsible use that are significant barriers to many nonprofits. So from DataKind's point, we're still working on the core problem of making information and insights more accessible to social impact organizations so that they can do their work better. And we're doing that with best in class technology, which now includes generative AI, but there's still that same translation level. There's still that same scoping. Can you identify the problem that the solution would be fit for purpose for? And for DataKind, we still see that being that connector and being that sort of lighthouse showing the possibility of these tools is key. um what I'll add is, in the work that we do, so as that sort of translator of technology to social impact, we are experiencing efficiencies in our own work using AI tools, and a new kind of body of work that we lead. We call them learning circles, where we are actually kind of exposing some of the best thinking and really forming peer learning relationships where people can share their insights from using these AI technologies also.
Gotcha. So just real quick, what is the workflow like for how does someone engage with DataKind? Where does the conversation start? What level do you engage with? Is it just kind of strategy? Do you start all the way with strategy and mission, or do you have a specific product idea or tool that you're looking to build that you come in with a specific request? How does it begin?
Sure. I would say it's a both and. So DataKind, we are a nonprofit organization. We are predominantly philanthropy supported. So we are lucky enough to have the support of companies and foundations worldwide who believe that data and technology products should be made accessible to any actor in the world. But we often start from the sector, what are the problems that perhaps we could tackle in education or in financial inclusion or in the distribution of public benefits. And from there, we take kind of three different approaches. We do deep ecosystem leadership and research. So we do landscape analyses, interviews, and primary research to understand the most promising areas to build technology solutions for meaningful impact, right? Not every problem in a sector can be solved with technology. I'm a techno optimist. I really hope that you can. But when you think of, sometimes there are fundamental odds, right? That if the if you simply need more staff members, right? You say, I used a healthcare example previously. You need more healthcare workers. Data and technology will only get you so far to the problem of having more workers, right? You still need the incentives of the greater ecosystem to align to having those individuals. So we look to figure out what problems are data scienceable, or now perhaps AI-able, that would have that meaningful impact. And then we work alongside social impact organizations to empower them to understand where those solutions can fit in so that they can act with greater confidence. And then ultimately, we design ethical, relevant, and scalable product solutions that can be deployed across sectors. And we support organizations in adopting and using those long term.
Gotcha. So it sounds like DataKind is looking at certain, thematic areas that you're looking to engage with. So are you reaching out to nonprofits or putting together, groups of consortiums, maybe of nonprofits that are in a certain area, and then engaging with them to work on a certain problem?
Yes, yeah. It again a bit of a both and that we do direct outreach to social impact organizations who we believe are really representative of actors in a given space. So, for example, we've built tools that support humanitarian response and disaster assistance. And we built those tools with a consortium of humanitarian actors that represented over 70% of all humanitarian response in the world. So this is groups like led by Save the Children, but also including like Mercy Corps and Catholic Relief Services, a number of those major actors. So trying to identify the right partners who can really help us best understand a sector and shape a solution that we know will be meaningful and context appropriate for that solution space. We also do, kind of work from just outreach. People ask us if they can use and engage with our tools. So an example of that is DataKind worked with Second Harvest Food Bank here locally in Central Florida to build a tool that's called Ladder, ladderhub.org. I'm sure we can put that in show notes or something. But this is a tool that was designed to help Second Harvest solve the pain point of managing their understanding of their areas of service across the over 700 food banks in their network and their additional collaborators in the healthcare space. And that tool is great. It's widely used. Second Harvest has been a fantastic partner. But then we had another group hear about it in New York and raise their hand and say, I want to use that tool too. So we did a training for them. And then we heard another group in Salt Lake City, I want to use that too. And so now we've been able to, through this word of mouth and this outreach, spread that tool across the United States to help these local communities better manage resources and support in their neighborhoods.
Gotcha. No, that's fantastic. So tell me about what you see as kind of the journey so far for DataKind and what you see as kind of the future, where it's headed. And after that, I definitely want to talk about your personal journey too. But let's talk about where you see DataKind heading from here. And is it a scalable organization or is it an organic growth organization? What model are you using right now to kind of increase your impact?
Sure. So DataKind, I mentioned we started nearly 15 years ago, back in 2012. And we were a volunteer first organization. We had a model similar to a Doctors Without Borders or a Engineers Without Borders, where we really facilitated that skilled volunteerism. And volunteers still remain a big part of our identity. We regularly still convene hackathons, early prototyping, rapid assessment engagements for volunteers. But part of DataKind's evolution realized that we needed to go past the point of the prototype. We had initially really started with this art of the possible. Can we demonstrate the value of data and technology in the social impact space in a time when it was less known? Uh, yes, we were able to do that. We needed to move forward and say, okay, we're building those end-to-end implementable solutions, and we had a more of a consulting first model. And DataKind's evolution now, and we actually just put out a pretty robust blog post about it, is that our next chapter is really product driven, that we have now built solutions across multiple swaths of the social impact sector in the United States and internationally, and realize that we are solving the same problems again and again. We've been solving a problem of making data accessible and useful to actors. Okay, that's a problem you see in healthcare and in housing and in food security and in disaster response. So building that repeatable product rather than a one-to-one consulting solution. We've seen predictive analytics in higher education. So just as an aside, there's an astonishing statistic that nearly 60% of students who start a 4-year bachelor's degree don't complete their degrees in 4 years, or excuse me, 6 years. That is a huge impact on individual people's lives, right? And if you exit college without a degree, your lifetime earnings are nearly $1 million less than if you were to exit degree with a degree. But higher ed institutions don't widely have tools that can identify those students who are at risk of leaving. And so DataKind, in a sort of a consulting model, worked with John Jay College, one-to-one way. We built a predictive model that they were able to use to then provide proactive support to student, and they increased their senior graduation rate by over 30%. Astonishing, huge support. And then 3 more colleges asked us, could you build that? We built those again. And another 5 colleges built it. And then luckily we got significant philanthropic investment to now build that tool as a platform solution that as of our conversation here, we have over 50 higher education institutions contracted to use this tool, and we're on pace to get to 100. And just thinking of how many more students will be provided the services they need to get to graduation is amazing. So when I think about the evolution of DataKind, it is continuing to use all the best tools and technologies at our disposal to make solutions impactful for local communities. And our organization will scale, effectively to meet that moment. And it's frankly a shift from maybe your traditional nonprofit point of view to one where we are operating full product teams in-house, which is unique for a nonprofit.
That is just fantastic to hear about that kind of impact, and the fact that now you're moving into a product space. So does that mean that you will treat this like a regular product? There's a subscription fee or whatever it is, and would you be thinking of spinning off some of these products to increase the impact that it can bring in through like regular VC capital or angel investment or anything like that? Or would you still keep it kind of grant-based focused for maximizing the impact?
Yeah, well, Rajiv, skipping a little ahead, you had a little bit of what's my call to action, and some of my call to action is teach me. So, this is an uncharted territory for us as a nonprofit organization. Our focus is sustainability and impact. In the open source community, right, you're kind of fond of saying, free like a puppy, not free like beer, right? So like our solutions are free like puppies, right? They still require a care and feeding, even if we gave it to you for free. So we do need sustainability, and we are eager to explore and learn from experts who have done this before. What does it mean to have diversified mechanisms for sustainability that move beyond, say, single grant providers? And that could look like a core free model that anyone could access, but perhaps we are providing added services on top of it. It could look like licensing models. We're not there yet as an organization, and we're really eager to learn and to figure out what makes sense that is most aligned to our mission that can still have a great impact in the world.
No, that's great. I love that you're being so open about that, because that's how you kind of engage with people, and hopefully somebody listening to the podcast may be motivated to come in and volunteer some of their time to help you. I certainly will. I know we have a couple more conversations planned where we can discuss this further, but yeah, I mean, since you brought it up, one of the things we're looking at, and I'm on the board of Rally, the Social Enterprise Accelerator, as well as Jonathan's Landing, which is a nonprofit, that a foundation that's focused on helping adults with autism through social enterprise. So basically, the umbrella structure of a nonprofit foundation funds an entity which is fully owned by the nonprofit, but it has an independent source of revenue, and it has an independent team that executes. In this case, it's called Tectonic, which is a first social enterprise that's built under the Jonathan's Landing Foundation umbrella, and that basically is a mobile services provider, a mobile repair and services provider, where we can go get a project with anybody from, airlines or educational institutions or counties. We recycle those devices and we sell them, for things that are still in good condition but need to be refurbished and resold, and as well as mobile maintenance of existing fleet of devices out there. So that is a full social enterprise that is just completely almost independent, except that it is under the umbrella of the Jonathan's Landing Foundation. Plus, because it's part of the same mission, we are creating jobs for adults with autism within the social enterprise. So we call it the 3 wins, right? Because one win is that for a client of Tectonic, which is the social enterprise, you would not only get your comparable quality as what you would get outside. You might even get higher quality, because adults with autism can be pretty detail oriented, but you also get the feel good factor of you've made a difference. You can write off some parts of the donations that you give or the discounts that you've received. You can also put this on your ESG reporting and other things that you have for larger enterprises. So you have multiple ways of winning when you engage with a model like Tectonic, rather than a commodity provider of a service like that, right? So why wouldn't you, if you have 2 choices and you have 3 ways to win in this one, and you have just 1 way to win on the other one, why wouldn't you do that one, right? Because you get the write-off, you get the ESG, and you get a successful service that your company really needs. So that's the advantage of these models. So, I mean, if you guys are thinking about products and productizing and looking at that, maybe that's an option to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are at a learning stage, because our ambition is to ensure that these tools that we are seeing have significant positive impact last long term, right? The worst situation would be that suddenly there is no sustainability plan, and something needs to wind down, and you've built all these dependencies around it. I'll add some things that we've been learning about are things like software collectives, right, where you have a group of founding members who essentially put sustaining funds into a trust, and you use that to continue to support, and just different mechanisms where perhaps this is a place where government partnerships come in, and you have those actors providing a level of sustaining funding that is outside of grants, and that any direct financial burden never touches the end user. And ultimately, what we want to do is really make sure that we are lifting local communities by providing, sort of these right context appropriate solutions.
Right, right. And of course, the devil is in the details on that, in terms of where does the cost get passed on. But I mean, the example you gave was a great one where, you're working with universities, you're drastically improving the graduation rates here. That's a massive real value that you're creating. And universities may be nonprofit universities, but that doesn't mean they don't make revenue, right? They do charge. There's an increase in revenue for them. So potentially some of that revenue could be a subscription fee or whatever it is that you're charging them for that, especially if you're going to scale to 100 colleges. I think for me, that would be a great opportunity to look at as an independent product. Yeah, of course. So this is great stuff. I mean, you guys are in the right place in the evolution. You've got a lot of credibility. You've got a lot of successes behind you in terms of the areas that you've already touched. And it's so fascinating to me. It's just a case of motivated, smart people going out and just making a difference. And the way you explain the model to me, you're literally just looking at the ecosystem and figuring out where you can make the most impact. And you go out, talk to a few people, be curious, just try to understand what problems they're facing, and then see how technology could help you, right? And that just sounds like you described it earlier. It's just sounds like a really fun job and a great place to be. So thank you for what you do. I mean, it's like I said before, if you hadn't told me that it's actually there, I wouldn't have believed that something like this exists. So it's great. So let's talk about you for a second, right? You've been there now. Tell me about your experience. Like, how did you first hear about it? What did you, how are you, is your experience today kind of what you expected? What has been your roadmap and journey, and kind of where do you see yourself, with this experience that you now have?
Yeah. So I can tell you a little bit about my experience. So I'll say, I decided I was going to be a scientist when I was 7 years old. Shout out to public libraries. I went to a science in the summer program at my local library where got to do, experiments every day for about a week, and I was hooked. And that kind of set me on a path for forever. And I went to college for engineering, and while I was in university, I did something called Engineers Without Borders, where it was skilled volunteerism. Engineering students and engineering professionals worked together to design context appropriate solutions for communities around the globe. So I was lucky enough to, while I was a student, work on projects in Honduras and Nicaragua and Haiti, really understanding what it meant to build a solution that made sense and was sustainable for a community, right? And when you think of your design constraints and your building constraints and your maintenance constraints, they are so different perhaps than what you would have been learning and applying in a US context. And so that opened me up to the power of, science and technology solutions to truly create these meaningful community impacts, at sort of every level of community. And I continued into grad school. I had a real, my engineering focus was industrial engineering, so very math heavy, which kind of led me into dabbling in scientific programming and really, again, understanding how do you use data to make sense of your community. And in grad school, I happened to start volunteering with DataKind, and actually was part of the volunteer team now going on over 10 years ago that built DataKind's first product. And it actually still is in existence. So there's a tool called Colander. It's a tool for evidence synthesis. So rather than research teams trying to read hundreds of thousands of papers out there to figure out the best evidence to be able to take action, when you see something out there in the world that's like, a summary of 27 cancer studies show that this type of chemo has an impact, that's an evidence synthesis. Hugely labor intensive. The commercial tools are often cost prohibitive for researchers. We built a commercial competitive free tool about 10 years ago. And that gave me a taste of what it meant to build product that could be impactful. I continued as a volunteer with DataKind for a while. And when Jake Porway, who was the founding CEO at the time, said, I'm looking to hire someone to come in to help shape our programs team, I raised my hand and I said, Jake, you should hire me. And luckily he did, because I didn't really have a backup plan. I came in, relatively early in DataKind's career. And I'll put a plug in for the value of mentorship. I would say a lot of my career, both my college career, my academic career, my um, career at DataKind and in industry, I had a bit of a detour through ed tech as a researcher as well, which again helped me just sort of solidify the power of technology for impact. But at each step of my career, I had a mentor who said, I think you can do this, and I'm going to support you into doing it. And so at DataKind, it was Jake. And Jake would make me be the person who did the pitch to the funders and gave me the stage to share the successes of the organization. He was incredibly generous mentor in sharing the credit and coaching. And that modeling those skills, like as a technologist who could also speak and engage with the community, was really priceless, because I would say my career has been built from that. So I feel really fortunate that I have a technology background and training, but for the most part, I'm a storyteller now. I am the person, I'm lucky enough to go have conversations like this, to have conversations in the community and help identify those problems and connect all the dots to figure out how technology is a part of that solution.
That's awesome. So that's a great recap. I mean, just like I said before, and I'll say it again, it's just wonderful that there's a role like that and that you have that role and you're able to express yourself in the way that you feel fulfilled. And that's really nice to hear. Someone doing so much for the community and being in a place where they're able to bring all their skills, all the whole person to work, basically. So that's really nice. So where does that, what do you see kind of the next 5 to 10 years for you and with technology and DataKind and everything else? Like, what is Caitlin looking forward to in the next 5 years, 10 years?
Gosh, I feel like if I were to say what technology I'm looking forward to, I mean, could you have predicted the last 5 years of
Not at
technology? I
all.
said, yeah. I think, I look forward to continuing to make an impact. I want to kind of stay curious, stay humble. I won't know it all. I don't know it all. So how do I bring together the right groups of people to work on the right problems to get to impact? That working on those wicked problems, right? You say wicked problems, definition from like the 70s, right? Problems that don't really have an end state. The best you can do is tame something. I like to work on the hard problems, and I like to be a part of teams that are working on those hard problems. And as long as I'm doing that, I think I'm going to be really really fulfilled. When I think about things that are filling my cup now, it's not just getting the work done at work. It's also bringing it back to my community. And so, one thing I've done and is now a couple year commitment is I've signed on as the volunteer president of the Orlando developers community, which is a long running community in Central Florida that really exists to be this inclusive connection point for anyone who has a passion for software development in Central Florida. Kind of across platforms, we have over 8,000 members. We run events that bring together a couple hundred people at a time, and we serve as an umbrella for many other meetups in the community. And I would say the challenge I'm really excited by today is, how does that community become an agent of change here in Central Florida? What can we do through that community to support workforce development and employment? What can we do to continue to grow Central Florida in the innovation ecosystem? How do we build those connections and connect the dots between different actors between our local nonprofits and our local universities, our governments, and our startup and investor communities to continue to grow and positively change where we are here. So
That's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. There's quite a few of those, of course, unfortunately, in the world we live in. There's so many wicked and hard problems to solve, and there's no shortage of those. And the deployment of resources, so I'm assuming with the product focus now, so you're doing a combination of volunteer and staff, right, to approach some of these, because obviously long-running sustaining sustaining the efforts for to tackle these long-running problems requires a dedicated team, and part of it is to
yeah.
continue to have a combination of volunteers, which people may volunteer and they may graduate out of it and go on to other things, but you need a staff as well. So how do you approach that from a sustainability perspective? Are you looking at we talked about two models here, but is there a revenue stream plus grants plus sponsorships? Are you looking at certain private public partnerships? How does that sustainability happen?
Yeah, and I would say it's growing, right, and evolving as the world changes. I think you need to be responsive to what the needs are of the sector, and also sort of what is the tolerance and the of the investor community at the moment. We as DataKind have had a lot of success in collaborations and partnerships with foundations, and also with corporations with strong corporate social responsibility or ESG programs. I think there's a world where as solution implementation becomes increasingly local, there's probably a way of working through, say, community foundations, right? There are thousands of community foundations across the United States. They're all investing in, sometimes down to just a zip code level. How do we take products to those markets and help the local philanthropy ecosystem adopt and sustain them in those communities? Yes, how do we continue to explore business models that could be resonant long term to again ensure that impact? I think it's something we're on the sort of start of the journey around, and again, my call to action is I'm learning. As a callback to what you were asking about my career, I did undergrad and PhD in a technical way, but I'm actually starting an MBA this summer, and that's because I need to learn how to answer these types of questions, right? I need to help grow and sustain a solution. I need some more tools in my toolbox. So.
Gotcha. Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah, it is a combination of all of the above, right? Especially if you're going to be more of a storyteller and more of a consortium builder, you need a lot of different tools than the technology side, which of course, with your experience at this point, social impact and solution design is probably already baked in. So you don't need to build that muscle anymore. It's probably a massive muscle at this point. So the next piece is probably how do you look at the different models and for sustainability and for growth and new revenue streams and everything like that. So that's pretty cool that you're getting an MBA. Congratulations on that. All the best with that.
Oh no, talk to me in about a month when I've gone through the first set of assignments there. So.
Well, I have an MBA, so I thought it was not that hard. There's some good concepts in there, but it's not hard. I mean, given if you've done technology, MBA is not that hard, is my opinion anyway. But others may disagree. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, show up in the comments, right?
Cool. So it'd be great to talk about like what are the engagement points, right? And what are the kind of relationships you're looking to build for you personally as well as for DataKind, right? If you're a nonprofit, how do you approach DataKind? If you're a volunteer, how do you approach DataKind? If you're a foundation or something like that that's looking to see the impact for your dollars, how do you have a conversation? You want to talk about some of those and how people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, it sounds a little trite, but I would say one of the best ways to get in touch with us is through our website. So all of our contact info, all of our about us, how we work, what we do as work, all of that is there. So it's a great first starting point. I think follow up is definitely connecting by email. I am eager to have a coffee and talk shop with anyone. So I think Rajiv, you'll be able to share my email, but it's simply caitlin@datakind.org. The same thing goes for Orlando Devs. So, in both my day job and in the volunteer work, we are looking for volunteers. We are looking for these connections. We are looking for people who are passionate about driving change to raise their hands. And that might be philanthropy, that might be corporations, that might be individual contributors. But again, if you, for a second email, I'm just Caitlin@orlandodevs.com. But really, looking to connect with anyone to talk about how we can work to tame some of these wicked problems and to drive impact, and also really eager to learn from other people's experiences to really again maximize the greater social good.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'd love to get the knowledge of the wisdom and knowledge that you've accumulated, get that out there, some of the things that your perspective on the world, really, like what you've done with your career so far, to me is inspirational. And I'd love for you to share some words for folks that are considering something like this in terms of, hey, why should I volunteer? It's a pretty competitive marketplace out there. I should try to, career hop or whatever. But apart from the impact that you're making from a social impact perspective, I personally see like just the fact that you're engaged with so many different people, you're working on different complex technical challenges. The feel good aspect is great, but also the fact that you're going to be learning so much is also a great benefit for people that are maybe on the fringe and maybe not sure if this is a good use of their time. For me, I've volunteered in all kinds of things, and the amount of knowledge that I've gained from those experiences is like immeasurable. So I feel like there's so much to gain when you engage in activities like this. But I'd love for you to share, like, how do your volunteers feel after having engaged in something like this? How do you've talked about your personal experience, but at scale, engaging so many people, they're doing it because they're getting something out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, Rajiv. Like, I volunteering has shaped my path as a professional. And I would say that for many volunteers I've engaged with, that's true, right? It volunteering exposes you to new ideas, new sectors, new ways of solving problems, new constraints on the solution that you're building, that it makes you think in different ways and grow in different ways. And to me, volunteer work has absolutely shaped the career path that I've taken. It's also given me opportunities. I mentioned I started at DataKind as a volunteer. I don't believe I ever would have gotten the job if I hadn't first been a volunteer and been in that community. And so I really feel like volunteering, obviously, I would say I hope it fills your cup. That is something it does for me. Like, it is core to my personal identity that I have the ability to volunteer. Therefore, I should volunteer and I want to volunteer. But even beyond that, if you're saying you're volunteering because you want to build your skills to test new opportunities, like that's okay. That's great. And there are so many volunteer opportunities. And um, the connections that you build as a volunteer just really cross-cut, right? Rajiv, you and I wouldn't have met if I hadn't volunteered with the Orlando Lady Devs, years and years ago. And so, and kind of pulling us to this conversation today, I think about, I volunteered for a group in Central Florida during COVID, which led me to meeting someone who ended up being a partner for DataKind on a project, which led me to a conference where I ended up meeting someone from the US Census. And I ended up having dinner with the US Census director and learning about those data sets and those solutions and how we can make it. And like, none of that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't raised my hand first, and to think of all the next pieces of knowledge and learning and connection that came from that. So I really encourage people to volunteer. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's directly connected, but the concept of abundance versus scarcity is another way to look at it, right? And if you feel like you have only so many hours in the day, you got to maximize every minute, and you're falling behind on stuff, you probably won't raise your hand and you won't go out there and put yourself out there in a situation where you can actually make a difference. But there's another way to look at the world, which is, hey, I'm here. I want to make a difference. I want to feel good about the things that I do. I want to engage with people who think like me, and I want to collectively, not just, a lot of people are on social media, they complain about things, but for the people that actually engage on things, it's a whole different perspective on the matter, right? You're not going to solve every problem. You know that. You worked on some hard problems that you haven't been able to solve. I'm sure I've worked on tons of things that I wasn't able to accomplish the way I want to accomplish. But the fact that you try is going to put you, the knowledge that you gain is going to put you in a better position to tackle bigger and harder things in the future. So it's just one of those things where saying yes to things opens up the door for other things. Saying yes to those things opens up the door for other things. And so it's one of those things where I definitely preach that with everybody that I talk to. So thank you for sharing that. It looks like we're just about out of time here. But Caitlin, it was such a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate the conversation. And I feel, as I said before, this is an inspirational organization. You're doing some fantastic work. And I hope that the folks listening to this are motivated to find ways to collaborate and engage with you and DataKind and all the great things that you're accomplishing. So thank you so much for what you do, Caitlin. Great talking to you.
yeah, thank you so much.
Have a great one. Take care.